Hello and welcome to this video. Today I'm gonna give you 5 books that are your easy way into classic literature. But you may think, what makes a classic? I didn't know either, so I just Googled it. According to Google, there are a few key characteristics. First, universal theme. Second, artistic quality. Third, cultural impact. Lastly, depth and engagement. All of these features are given in the books that I'm going to talk about next, so you can be sure that those are valid classics. Let's get started with my first classic lit book, which is The Physicists by Friedrich Dürrenmatt. This is a tragic comedy. It's only 80 pages long, so it's a super quick read, perfect to start. And it's very easy to read and follow along as it's written in a play form. It takes place in a psychiatric institution, and all the main characters think that they are these very important scientific personas like Einstein and Newton. And the book starts when one of them kills a nurse. The police comes and they find out that that wasn't the first nurse that was killed in this institution. And the play is about finding the reason for these murders. But as it is with classic literature, you have to read between the lines. And what does this book say? It actually questions scientific ethics and intellectual responsibility. And with that knowing, it might be easier to read and also understand what it's really about. Moving on to book number 2, Macbeth by William Shakespeare. This list wouldn't be complete with any work by Shakespeare. He's the personification of classic literature. But why did I choose Macbeth? I haven't read all of Shakespeare's works, but around 10 of them. And this is my favorite so far because the story itself is super interesting. It's quite short with 170 pages. And just look at that cover. It's a story about power hunger, where our main character, Macbeth, gets a prophecy about him actually becoming king, which is what he kind of wants. And he doesn't believe that at first. But as soon as some of the prophecy fulfills itself, he starts to believe in the prophecy. And his wife is super ambitious and wants to push him towards his goal of becoming king. And there he turns from an actually good person to doing a lot of vile and terrible things, and we kind of watch this descent into being a bad person. And I love the wife. For me, Lady Macbeth is the main character, okay? Next up we have The Perfume by Patrick Süskind. This is probably the easiest book to read on this list, but it's also a little thicker than the other ones. Still a quick read, and it's just super abstract, which makes it really fun to read. But it's also mildly disturbing, just a quick warning. And we follow the main character, Grenouille, who wants to become a perfumer. Eventually, once he achieved his goal, which is kind of at the beginning of this book, so no real spoiler here, he has this desire to create the perfect perfume. And to what lengths he goes to for this perfect scent is crazy. His whole world is defined by scents and this thrive for perfection, and it's so interesting following his mind because it feels like following a psychopath and kind of understanding him in a certain way. So this is a super thrilling and engaging read. And it takes place in the city of perfumes, Grasse, in France, where I've been because of this book. The next book is about another prominent author, Oscar Wilde, The Picture of Dorian Gray. It's another staple of classic lit, and it's about Dorian Gray, who is kind of this normal average person in the beginning of this book, but he starts with some bad habits which don't really affect him at all in the beginning, or at least that's what he thinks, but his portrait at home grows more repelling day by day, and this drives him into madness basically. It's about 200 pages long and quite easy to follow due to Wilde's writing style. And the last book I'm going to show you is another beautiful edition, Lord of the Flies by William Golding. Like, look at this book. What can you expect from this book? It's brutal, it's gory, it's violent. It doesn't really feel like a classic. I'm not the biggest fan of the writing style, to be honest, so it is kind of chunky at places for me personally. But the story itself, amazing. It's about a group of boys who is stranded on a remote island, and they try to implement a democratic system. One of the boys claims leadership, and another one kind of becomes the antagonist. Over the course of the book, we follow this group of boys who were just kids at the beginning of the book, but by the end they feel like so much more. and they basically become savages. So the book is very dark and it focuses on the topics of primal fear and this dark side inside of human nature. So those were my 5 books that you can use to start your reading journey into classic literature. I still have 2 honorable mentions. Read something that you're interested in. For example, I started reading Electra by Sophocles because it's about Greek mythology and I loved it. So if you have a topic that you're particularly interested in, it's easier to read classic literature. Book number 2 has also a really well adapted movie. It's called Carol, and the book is called The Price of Salt by Patricia Highsmith. So those were the books that I personally liked as a starting point in classic literature. I hope this helped you in any way, and if you liked one of these books or read them, just comment what you thought about them. If you're interested in other genres, I'm actually doing a series called Read Your Way Into. Next up is probably Read Your Way into Fantasy, which is my favorite genre. And yeah, that's about it, so have a nice one. Bye!